Eastern Conference is packed in tightly with three clear teams at the top with the Sixers, Nets, and the Bucks. But that's when it gets interesting. The middle of the conference, something to watch out for. 4-11, separated by just 3 games. Remember, this year's seeds 7 through 10 will have to play in a play-in tournament like they did last season in the bubble. All right, the first half of the season wrapping up as we head into the All-Star break. So we bring in Tim Legler to get his thoughts on what he's seen so far. And Tim, let's focus in on the East. Very top heavy. What are your takeaways from that conference so far?
Biggest takeaway for me is that all the worry about Kyrie Irving and James Harden playing together was misguided, apparently, because that really is what's going to determine the Eastern Conference. Nobody's going to have enough firepower to deal with this team, but we needed to see if they could sort out their roles, because these are 2 ball-dominant players coming together now for the first time. And what they did, they established how they are going to play, which is James Harden is going to run the show. It's his operation, the way that team operates offensively, and Kyrie Irving slides over to the off-guard spot where he can just go be that dynamic scorer he's been throughout his career. That spells trouble for the rest of the East. And then I think the biggest question for me in the second half is any team, primarily Philly, going to be able to make a move to add that other piece that they are going to need to make up this ground with the Nets. Philly's got a very unique weapon in Joel Embiid. He is a guy that can dominate front lines, and Tobias Harris is a really good other option, but they need another guy that can go consistently create offense if you get into a series or a shootout with the Brooklyn Nets. So that's my biggest question. Will any team be able to make a move bold enough to close that gap and actually give the Nets a run for their money?
Yeah, the Sixers are a very intriguing team, especially because, like you said, a lot of talent already so far. Okay, that is the East. Tim will be back in a few minutes, and we'll chat. Here's how the West has been won in the first half of the season. If you had the Jazz and the Suns at the top of the conference, good on you. That's what it says here. Nobody had the Jazz and the Suns at the top of the conference, but that's where they are right now. The Clippers and the Lakers, they're within striking distance. And then you see the Blazers slowly moving up in the West. Told you he'd be back. Tim Legler joining us again. And Tim, this time we talk about the West. And it really is a mixed bag. You look at the standings and you're seeing a lot of surprises. What has stood out to you so far?
It's got to be the Utah Jazz. I mean, this is a team now that's making it interesting for those 2 teams in Los Angeles. It looked like a foregone conclusion the Lakers would repeat when they went out and added Shooter and Montrezl Harrell. Clippers, we know, are loaded. But the Utah Jazz are legit. This is a legitimate, not only Western Conference contender, title contender, because their style of play is sustainable. They move it, they shoot it, and they can also beat you on the defensive end of the floor. So they can beat you multiple ways. They've got great chemistry. And right now, they're shooting the basketball at an almost unprecedented level. So this is a team that's made it very interesting out west. And for me, the biggest question marks concern Anthony Davis and Paul George. Can Anthony Davis not only come back, can he stay back? They're concerned about what this Achilles ultimately could mean for them long term. If this team is banged up or Anthony Davis isn't 100%, they will not make it to the finals. And then the same with the Clippers. It's not so much about health with Paul George. It's more about, will he be big when he needs to be for this team if they make a deep playoff run, they get into a series with the Lakers or the Utah Jazz? He has to come through in a huge way in those pivotal moments within a series. Those are the 2 biggest question marks, because for me, it's one of those 3 teams is going to be in the finals, and if AD stays healthy, it'll probably be the Lakers.
Yeah, and I like the fact that the Utah Jazz, you mentioned off the top, they're not shying away from any expectation. They kind of like the pressure right now. No games Friday, which I think means Tim gets a day off. I think. Thank you, Tim.
You got it. Thanks.
Access selections have been made for Team LeBron and Team KD for this weekend's All-Star game. Here's KD. He went with Kyrie first, then Joel Embiid, then Kawhi Leonard, and then he got Bradley Beal and Jason Tatum to round out the starters. Remember, he is not playing. He then picked his teammate James Harden first. He also got D Book, Zion, Zach LaVine, Julius Randle. Vucevic and Donovan Mitchell went last. Actually, Gobert went last. That was LeBron got the last pick of the reserves. Check this out, the starters. LeBron's got Giannis, the first overall pick. Then he went with Steph Curry, and Steph Curry, LeBron fans went nuts. They're usually going at it. Now they're on the same team. Luka and Jokic, Damian Lillard, Ben Simmons, Chris Paul, Jaylen Brown, Paul George, Sabonis, and Gobert. Here's LeBron afterwards.
I just try to pick players that can complement one another, and we out on the floor, we just, try to play the game the right way. I mean, it's an all-star game, so, there's going to be some shenanigans out there, but for the majority of the game, we just try to play the right way and try to come out with a win.
I've been banged up the past, 2-3 weeks. Obviously, Bron playing through it, banged up. AD, not having Dennis, it's a win. So we just got to get healthy and, I'm excited to see what our team does in the second half when everybody's back. I'm very excited.
We're still learning, we're still growing, and like I said, I think the first half of the season has been a good one. But this break is a much needed one because these guys are still dealing with just different things that may have occurred from the short off season and just the different turnaround that we had, man. But I think this break is going to give these guys a good chance to reset. And like I said, we're going to come back ready to play some good basketball, finishing off the season to make that push to try to do it again.
The long-awaited break is here, and the Lakers lost their 2 final games. And you see that graphic. It said 3-7 in their last 10. Kind of jumps out to you, Brez. We know they've been banged up. But how do you feel about the Lakers right now?
I feel okay if I'm kind of judging neutrally, just kind of looking at it from an outsider's perspective. They might have a different opinion, the players and coaches, but I feel like they weathered some of the AD storm. Obviously, it's not good to go on that 4-game losing streak. That was no good, but they got some of their mojo back. This last game against Sacramento, though, I mean, nobody was playing. I mean, they were down 3 guys who averaged, close to 60 points and 20-something rebounds. I mean, they were down a lot of people in that last game. Still made it pretty competitive and actually really entertaining. But I think you should feel satisfied if you're a Laker fan right now about the first half of the season based on the AD injury.
Bill, what about for you? I know they're out of your top 5 power rankings, but how you feeling about them?
I would just say, last night is not a game that I think says anything about their championship worthiness. And I feel that way kind of about almost the entire month of February when you talk about the way they were playing, kind of the dog days of the season. You have no Anthony Davis. If Anthony Davis is healthy, and I think it's reasonable to be concerned about that given the nature of the injury that he's currently dealing with. But if he's healthy come playoff time and the Lakers are at full strength, then we know they are championship contenders, and we know that they have an opportunity to be there at the end of the season. So I feel good about the Lakers. I mean, they don't have serious injuries. They're not showing signs of a team that is sliding necessarily. I think they're in good shape. They just need to be healthy.
Yeah, I took away last night's game that it was really fun. It was entertaining. It was great to see Dennis and Kuz and Montrez get to do their
3 season highs for those guys.
Yeah, that was great. Of course, you want to win every game, but didn't go your way. Listen, last night Rob said in the post-game show, you want to be strategic about where you land. I don't care, but you also don't want to be playing the Clippers in the first or second round. I want to wait for the Western Conference Finals. Big Game had a totally different take. He goes, I disagree. Bring on whomever, as long as we're healthy.
Whoever.
Okay, so where do you come out, both of you, on the seeding for the Lakers?
See, I think Utah is going to get that top seed.
Yeah.
I think that's almost set in stone. I feel like they want it. They still need to prove some things in the playoffs, so maybe they feel like that helps them a little bit. I'm kind of on the side with James, though. Whoever, whenever. Do you want to play the Clippers in the first round in like a 4 or 5 matchup? No. That wouldn't be beneficial for either franchise. They're both probably the class of the West. But, it's going to be a weird balance between rest and seeding. You want to make sure LeBron's rested down the stretch. Does that mean you drop down to a 4 or maybe a 5? Possibly. But that's more important than, hey, let's gun for that first seeding. That was more of a theme of last year, I thought.
All right, I agree with Brez. What about you, Bill?
Yeah, I hate to not be more controversial here, but I agree with what you're saying, Brez. I mean, caring about seeding is something a team of upstarts would be concerned with.
Like
Last year's Lakers team had not been there before. And yeah, the Jazz should want to get the 1 seed. They should want every advantage they have going into the playoffs. The Lakers already have the advantage they need going into the playoffs. His name is LeBron James. So to me, they can be the 4 seed, they could be the 5 seed, and I don't view them any differently as a title contender than I would if they were the 1 seed.
All right, guys, your top 2 storylines for the second half of the season. Brez?
Got to stay healthy and safe. They did okay with the safe part. If you're talking about COVID-19 in particular, no games postponed, nothing really major hitting the team. A couple of isolated incidents with Caruso and Marc Gasol most recently, and of course Schroeder. They each missed about a week. But the health part has been an issue. We already talked about AD missing 14 games. Bill, he's going to miss another 4 or 5 at the start of the second half based on the timetable the Lakers gave us. So, you just want everyone healthy and as safe as can be. That's a big part of the second half, I feel.
It seems so cliche, but it is so true. It really